Okay, let's dive in then. Today we're doing something a little different. We're going to explore how popular culture,
Hmm?
specifically Hindi cinema,
Mm.
from, well, a key 20-year stretch in India,
Yeah.
how it can actually be this, like, brilliant window into massive societal shifts.
It's a great way to think about it. Sometimes a song or, a film, it's not just entertainment. It's basically a time capsule.
Right.
And we're using two really iconic songs, one from the late 60s, one from the late 80s. Plus, we'll look at three films from that same era. That's our source material today.
And the mission really is to see what these cultural artifacts tell us about changing family dynamics, especially
Yeah.
between fathers and sons.
Hmm.
This is during a super crucial period in India, right? Roughly late 60s up to like the doorstep of the
Yeah,
90s.
just before liberalization really hit.
What did success mean then? What about duty? And how did all that change over those 20 years?
It's a time when India went through just enormous transformation. And you'll see it's kind of fascinating how something as simple as a song, just a few minutes of music,
Yeah.
can actually hold these really profound clues to the historical stuff, the psychological changes the whole country was experiencing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's unpack this together. Get ready to see how these songs and films, they really tell a story about connection, aspiration, tradition, all shifting over 2 decades.
Okay, so let's start by setting the scene. We've got these two key songs.
Right.
First, Mera Naam Karega Roshan. That's from Ek Phul Damali, 1969.
Got it.
Then we jump forward quite a bit to Papa Kete Hai from Kayamat Se Kayamat Tak. That's 1988. They really do feel like snapshots of different worlds.
Okay, so 1969, India's, what, just over 20 years into independence? What's the general vibe? What was the feel of the country?
Well, it was still very much steeped in that post-independence idealism, Things felt relatively traditional compared to later.
Right.
We're talking mostly joint families, pretty clear patriarchal structures still in place, and this strong sense that children were like extensions of the family's honor. Success wasn't just individual, it was often seen as a collective thing for the whole household.
And you have that backdrop, too, of Nehru's push for modernization, right? This idea of building the nation together.
Absolutely. That's definitely part of the mix. Now let's flash forward. 1988. The air feels different, doesn't it?
Totally.
India's right on the cusp of economic liberalization. What's happening on the ground by then?
Well, you start seeing really rapid urbanization, people moving to cities in much bigger numbers.
Mm-hmm.
That traditional joint family model, it's starting to shift, right? You see more nuclear families popping up.
Yeah.
And there's way more exposure to Western ideas. Individualism is starting to take root.
Right.
And younger people, they have completely new ideas about careers, what they want out of life. It's not just following the family path anymore.
Which naturally creates a bit of a tension, doesn't it?
For sure.
What the older generation expected versus what the new generation was starting to dream about, you can almost feel that friction building.
You can really, really hear it in these two songs. So, okay, let's zero in on Mera Naam Karega Roshan from 69. What's the first thing that jumps out?
The really striking thing, I think, is whose voice you hear.
Okay.
It's the father singing. He's singing about his son, or maybe to his son. It's not the child expressing himself. It's the parent defining the child's future, basically laying out the expectations.
Right. The whole theme feels like dynastic duty.
Right.
Like the son exists in a way to make the father's name shine. Mera Naam Karega Roshan. My name, he will make luminous.
Exactly.
It feels like this solemn, almost sacred duty that's just, well, imposed. The kid's called a Raj Dulara, like a prince, but his main job seems to be upholding the family honor within that existing social setup.
Yeah, and the father's hopes, maybe even things he couldn't achieve himself, they're all projected onto the son. It's vicarious achievement.
And the word name there,
Yeah.
it's not just about personal fame, is it?
No, not really. It's much more about family reputation, honor within the community, within those traditional hierarchies.
It's about making the family look good,
Yeah.
not just becoming a solo star.
Precisely. Reflecting well on the collective.
And even the style of the song, it fits that era perfectly. You've got these, like, classical arrangements.
Yeah, Ravi's music.
Performed by a total heavyweight man day. It's full of rich metaphors, classical, Hindi, poetic meter. It has that weight, that sort of golden age cinema feel.
Totally. Now let's put on Papa Kete Hai from 88.
Mm-hmm.
The energy is just completely different.
Oh, yeah.
The key shift here, I think, is it's about individual aspiration, but and this is important, it's still tangled up with these internalized parental expectations.
And this is where the huge narrative revolution happens, right?
Mm.
The song is sung by the son himself.
Yes.
That feels massive. He's the protagonist now. It's
Yeah.
his story.
Exactly. It's not the father laying down the law anymore. The son has kind of absorbed that parental voice. Papa Kestehan, Dad says, becomes this thing he repeats, almost like a mantra he's internalized.
But he's also asking, Mary Monzil Haikahan, where am I going?
Right. He's wrestling with it. He's trying to assert his own path, even though he's clearly uncertain about it.
And the definition of Nam has shifted too. Now it's about making a Bada Nam, a big name,
For himself.
for himself.
Yeah.
It's individual recognition, professional success in this wider, more competitive world,
Yeah.
not just family honor in the village or the neighborhood.
And the music totally reflects that shift. It's contemporary, faster paced.
Yeah, I know.
It matches that kind of anxiety and restlessness of late 80s youth. Udit Narayan's fresh voice. The language is much more direct, urban, conversational.
It feels like a young guy trying to figure things out in a fast-changing city.
Totally.
So just comparing the narrative voice, like who gets to speak, whose perspective drives the song, that alone tells you so much.
It's incredibly revealing.
1969. The parent sets the agenda. The son is the object of that agenda.
Mhm.
Duty is this external command. And the child's own voice is, well, pretty much silent in the song itself.
Right. Fast forward to 1988. The son is navigating his own future. He's claiming agency. The expectations are internalized, but also being questioned, wrestled with.
Yeah.
And the son is firmly in control of telling his own story, his own experience.
And this isn't just about songs, is it? This shift in who gets the microphone, so to speak.
Yeah.
It mirrors exactly what was happening in India more broadly. The country was moving from this largely collective society where your identity was kind of wrapped up in and defined by the family unit
Subsumed almost.
to one where personal dreams and what your parents hoped for you were suddenly in this really dynamic, sometimes quite difficult tension.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How did we get from that world of the nurturing father figure we see in 69 to the slightly more anxious one underpinning the song in 88?
Yeah, how did that happen?
Well, the analysis we looked at uses 3 specific films from this period to kind of trace that evolution cinematically. It's pretty neat.
Okay, let's look at that arc through the films then. First, back to Ik Voel Domali, 1969. That gave us Maranam Karega Roshan. What kind of father figure do we actually see in the movie?
Well, he's presented as the nurturing patriarch, and the film adds a lot of depth to the song's meaning.
Oh, so?
So the character Kailash Nath Kaushal, played by the great Balraj Sahni, he's a wealthy widower. And he marries a woman, Samna, who is already pregnant by another man. He then adopts her child as his very own.
Oh, wow.
So when he sings that song, Maranam Karega Roshan, it's not just about biological fatherhood. It's this incredibly deep, unconditional promise of love and acceptance for this adopted child.
That's really powerful. So
Good.
fatherhood here is defined more by that nurturing love than just blood ties. It's almost like a spiritual calling.
Exactly. And it reflects that traditional joint family's capacity for inclusion, for absorbing people.
And the socioeconomic context fits that,
Mhm.
right? A relatively stable, predictable time, joint families providing that safety net.
Yeah, clear social hierarchies.
And success is more about character, about upholding your dharma, your righteous duty, than just piling up money.
Precisely. Material wealth isn't the main focus.
Okay, fast forward now, 1985. The film is Ram Teri Gangameli. The father figure here is quite different, described as the transitional autocrat.
Yeah, Jiva Sahay, played by Kopushan Kharbanda. He's a really fascinating character because he perfectly embodies the conflicts of that mid-80s moment.
How so?
He's caught between sort of the old traditional values and the emerging opportunities and temptations of modernity. Like, he's literally involved in these corrupt business schemes that are polluting the sacred Ganges River
Wow.
while trying to maintain this respectable public image.
So he's trying to navigate this changing world, but maybe not always ethically or successfully. And his son, Narendra, he's the idealist in the story.
Right. And the fatherhood we see here is defined by that internal conflict. He becomes really focused on protecting the family's social status and wealth.
Okay.
So, for example, he rejects his son's love interest, Ganga, primarily because of her lower class background, prioritizing social standing over, love or even traditional values of acceptance. He's become more of a material strategist for the family
Hmm.
than a spiritual guide for his son.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it.
So the socioeconomic backdrop now is one where this emerging capitalism is creating more inequality, urbanization is maybe disrupting traditional communities,
Hmm.
and success is becoming much more explicitly tied to wealth and status, sometimes even clashing with those older values.
Definitely. And there's a great little meta-narrative detail here,
Oh,
too.
yeah.
The film was directed by the legendary Raj Kapoor, and he was launching his own son, Rajiv Kapoor, as the lead actor.
Well, that kind of mirrors the real-life father-son dynamic you saw a lot in the 1980s, where established figures often used their clout to help build careers for their kids in this increasingly competitive environment.
That really does bring it into the real world outside the movie, doesn't it?
Yeah, adds another layer.
Okay, so finally, we arrive at Kayamat Se Kayamat Talk in 1988. And the model here is called the anxious motivator. What does that mean?
Well, the film's tragic ending itself is pretty symbolic, right? The young lovers, Raj and Rashmi, they die because they just can't overcome these rigid family feuds and expectations.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
It really shows how those older models of family and love are starting to break down under these new pressures. And the father's voice that we imagine behind the song Papa Kehta Hai,
Yeah.
it now feels less like confident, assured guidance and more like, well, almost a desperate push, a bit of cheerleading.
Right, like his traditional authority is clearly weakening. Fatherhood seems to be shifting towards being more of a cheerleader for external success, maybe a strategist, pushing the child towards achievement out in the world.
Mm-hmm. Children almost become like projects whose success reflects back on the parents in a new way. The future feels less certain, maybe more of a source of anxiety.
And the socioeconomic reality is now full-blown competitive market economy. Nuclear families might mean less traditional support.
Yeah, more isolation, perhaps.
Success is just overwhelmingly defined by professional achievement, social recognition in that wider sphere.
Absolutely.
Wow. Looking across those three films, you see such a clear evolution of that father figure.
It really maps it out.
From the dharmic father, grounded in values in 69,
Yeah.
to the materialistic one, kind of struggling with the changes in 85.
Right. Conflicted.
And ending with this more, well, desperate or anxious figure in 88.
And think about how love is expressed. It changes, too.
How so?
It seems to go from this sense of faith and acceptance in 69
Mm-hmm.
to more about control and protecting status in 85.
Right.
And finally, it manifests as this sort of anxious concern, this aspiration for external success in 88.
It's fascinating, though, that in all three cases, the underlying thing is the father wanting the child to succeed.
Oh, absolutely. That desire is constant.
But the definition of that success just gets progressively narrower, doesn't it?
Yeah.
More focused on the external world, on
Yeah.
achievement.
Yeah, exactly. It becomes increasingly externalized. And it's a shift that's perfectly captured by the broader cultural narrative, too.
What do you mean?
Well, think about the kinds of stories being told. In 1969, the stories were often about fulfilling your dharma, your duty, your righteousness.
Okay.
Desires and expectations were usually kind of aligned or expected to align. Conflicts were often external, a villain, a misunderstanding.
Right.
And the resolution usually reinforced the traditional structures. Order was restored.
And by 1988,
By 88, the stories are full of internal drama, choice, conflict. Desires are now clashing with expectations all the time.
yeah.
The conflict is often psychological, it's inside the characters. And resolution means trying to navigate or negotiate between tradition and modernity.
Which, as Kayamat Se Kayamat Talk shows us, doesn't always end happily.
Exactly. Sometimes that negotiation fails tragically. So these songs, these films, they aren't just, popular entertainment. They really do function as this incredible archive.
An archive of India's huge social and cultural transformation over those 2 decades.
Yeah.
It makes it so clear this wasn't just some abstract economic shift happening way up high.
No, not at all.
Massive changes like liberalization, urbanization.
Yeah.
They really filter down and reshape the most intimate relationships we have, like between a father and son.
Absolutely. You see the father's voice, his role evolving from that confident guide to someone grappling with maybe confused authority,
Yeah.
to finally that almost desperate cheerleader just hoping their kid makes it big in a much tougher, more competitive world.
And yet, through all that change,
Mm-hmm.
maybe underneath the shifting methods and the changing definitions of success,
Yeah.
there's still that underlying current, isn't there? That parental love, that hope for the child's well-being, even if the world around them is kind of forcing that hope into these increasingly external, maybe less fulfilling metrics.
That's a really nice way to put it. It is a powerful story told through culture.
So thinking about this whole journey, from 1969 to 1988, what does it mean for you listening today? How do your own definitions of success, of duty, how do they stack up against the ideas floating around in these different eras?
Yeah, it's worth considering. How have maybe global shifts, economic pressures today, this constant cultural exposure we all have, how has that shaped the expectations placed on you?
Or the expectations you place on others, maybe on your own kids or younger relatives.
Right, in your own life right now?
And maybe take a look around you at the cultural artifacts of our time, the songs you stream, the films you watch, the shows everyone's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
What do they reveal about our current moment, about our relationships, and the kinds of tensions we're navigating today?
That's definitely something worth thinking about.